Welcome to this educational video guide on why shutting the hell up may be a choice you want to make in the future. So recently, Romantic Goblin, a creator who came to prominence through the Lyo convoy drama, held a stream explaining gun safety. You may be asking, why would she do that? Well that, dear subscriber, is a question that can only really be answered by talking about what happened behind the scenes in the Synnnibear drama and also how art commentary itself functions. Which is kinda convenient because at this point I feel like that's something I should talk about. And not just because I'm violently procrastinating on the several other projects my editor is DMing me about desperately on a daily basis asking for any kind of update. But why use this as a subject? Why talk about a content creator who at time of recording has deleted their channel and before that had less than 300 subscribers? To draw a comparison, during the Lyo convoy drama, one of the things that was brought up was the server that Hopeless Peaches used to essentially plan his downfall and accuse him of abuse. Now this server, the Burger King logs, was a pretty interesting sideline, containing one channel that started as a place to post Nazi memes. And while that server is a great example of how ACC gay ops work, the challenge is that the wider drama around it is so convoluted that using it as an example requires quite a lot of setup. However, the Synnnibear drama is kind of self-contained, which means I can use it pretty effectively as an example while using this group chat to show you a microcosm of ACC antics, which I hope should be pretty interesting. So first off, let's give you a TLDR on the Synnnibear scandal. Now I'm not going in depth here and I'm sure there are many elements which I'm missing out that you will be desperate to point out to me in the comment section below, but the long and the short of it is this. On the 15th of September 2024, a Google document and video was released by Synnibear's former roommate Birdie. Now this document contains a whole host of allegations, but the only one we really need to care about is that Synnnibear groomed a 14-year-old. Birdie had their own list of grievances, but frankly they're a complete freak and I'm sure this channel will talk about them in the future. Irregardless, the accusations took hold and Synnnibear found herself staring down the barrel of cancellation. Surprisingly, or perhaps unsurprisingly depending on your perspective, Synnnibear found herself gaining allies as people went over the documents, with some of the more contrarian members of the community pushing back on the allegations. This group would become somewhat of a Synnnibear defense force, and the fact that none of them are around anymore may be a little hint as to how this turned out for them. With that set up, let's talk about who the main players in the Synni Defense Force were, and I say main players because more people were involved in this than is widely realised. Now the lead Tard Wrangler of this little group, as many of you will already know, is a content creator named Kumo, and he would hand over his DMs with Synnnibear to Chud Logic during this drama. For those of you looking to see those in full, I highly recommend Queeman's video on the topic, where he goes through them in quite thorough detail. But what I have for you here in this video is an untold part of the story, at least a section of it. Because while many of the calls that would occur between Synnnibear and this little group have been lost to time, what we do have in front of us is their group chat messages. And one thing that's particularly striking about these messages is, for all the shit Kumu has rightfully got for essentially trying to opt a groomer out of their allegations, he was not the only one. So let's begin this dive into months-long insanity as a group of retards peer pressure themselves into defending the indefensible. In fact, you provided the connection to Synni in the first place.
Yeah, I provided the connections to Synni when I was drunk, when I was drinking, when I sent that message.
Much like a child that's going to be abused by its stepfather, this group chat began after one stupid, drunken mistake. Perhaps appropriately, the first message from Kumo is a burning man, which is pretty ironic in hindsight. Once everyone's made their quirky introductions, they get to the business of talking about Synnibear's upcoming video. And a wonderful theme begins to emerge. This group basically constructed Synnibear's defense. Now I have it on testimony that quite a lot of things happen in calls, so we're only really getting a snapshot of the wider picture. But one thing I can confirm is that the idea that Kumu was trying to pull Synni away from this group to maintain some kind of control over the narrative does have legs, if for no other reason than the competing ideas and opinions within this group chat. Kumu's involvement in this group chat is actually kind of limited, at least for driving the narrative. Now there is a good reason for this. It's because Kumu pulled Synnnibear into direct DMs so he could have those conversations privately. And now we hit point 1 of ACC gay opping drama. No one trusts any of the other people they're conducting a gay op with. This is basically exactly what Jar tried to do. And because the best things in life come in threes, I was recently informed by Evan that there was another group chat called the Pegasus Girls, where a member of this chat who has been redacted and Romantic Goblin herself also pulled Synni into a separate group conversation. Now you're probably asking yourself, well, who the hell is this Romantic Goblin chick?
Okay, Goblin's been in Senate for almost the entirety of its existence. Very early on from when it came online to a few months before I archived it. Goblin took part, at least in terms of being an audience member, to the majority of the calls we had there when they weren't on hiatus, because they would disappear for months at a time. Had literally no problem, no issues in that server at all, at least none that they voiced, but only started taking issue when public opinion started turning. That's when Goblin decided, well, now I don't like Senate, now I'm going to talk about them constantly and make it into content. It's very obvious they are inconsistent in their values. Like, they claim to me that they don't care because it's just the internet stuff, but good lord, do they get attached. They actually do care. They just keep lying about it, I guess, to try to get cool points. Goblin is just a very strange person. I don't understand them at all.
I mean, my question is, Goblin seems to be hanging out here now.
Yep, Goblin peeks in the call occasionally here. Okay, that was creepy. In the calls occasionally here, primarily if Kumo hops in, I suppose. But it seems like they just don't care about what they've done recently either. They seem to think that it's a joke. Just a funny thing. Ahaha, that happened.
Goblin is, or in, well, point of fact, was an upcoming creator in the space. She made her name as an archivist during the Lyo convoy drama, but more recently had been streaming pretty regularly and trying to, well, gain some clout and recognition as a content creator in her own right. If Goblin has an archetype that they fit into, they're kind of like the Hidden Heroines, the Crystal Flames, the Himpletons. The kind of people who kind of get the fireside chat of maybe stop talking before you actually annoy somebody. Speaking of, by the way, when I went to reach out to Evan for some kind of comment on this story, his first response to me was a DM telling me I'd lose and that there was some drama involving me and Xylee. Which, I'm gonna level with you, confused the living fuck out of me.
Firstly, I want to talk about this group chat. Secondly, you brought up something between that me and Xylee did. I'm gonna be honest.
Oh, yeah, no.
I've got.
The reason why is because I wasn't gonna fucking put all my eggs in one basket. The main reason I'm not gonna fucking. This was just me as a friend coming to you, making sure like, hey, I don't know what this is. I'm just gonna double check because it could have been misconstrued.
I mean, as far as
that's what I asked. Is that it could just be a misunderstanding.
I mean,
so what I'm being told is that you and Xylee were threatening Himpleton to blackball him.
And if you want to look into how this particular subsection works, here is Himpleton relaying a conversation I had on stream with him where he largely agreed with me, painting it as blackballing for some bizarre reason. Also, I'm not entirely sure I'd refer to myself and Xylee Gets Real as a ton of bigger YouTubers. But don't worry, this DM from Himpleton is actually relevant and we will be coming back to the circumstances surrounding it. Around the 21st of the 9th, the group chat starts to get into, shall we say, operational mode, with them posting different people's channels, including Chud Logic himself, and comments such as this one from Kumu, where he is literally offering to rewrite Synni's script. The group itself seems to descend into full-on cope mode, seemingly treating the drama as a vindication of their own grievances as opposed to, you know, the fact that Synni groomed a 14-year-old.
You know, this whole situation, Synnibear was put in this kind of like group chat to help, but then it turned over time. Once they realised that Synnibear was fucked, they wanted to fucking jump ship, and so they had to do this kind of performative disavowal leading up to the call.
On the 22nd, we see the first mention of Romantic Goblin talking about a gun and mandatory wait times. And yes, this is the reason that Romantic Goblin recently did a gun safety stream, because she couldn't take being mocked for providing gun safety tips to a paranoid pedophile. Now, having spoken to 3 different people about this incident who have some knowledge of it, as far as I can tell, this was a joke said in a VC, and then Goblin went and asked Vlad if he could sell a gun to somebody who wasn't black, and I'm sort of paraphrasing here. And while Goblin has maintained that this is a joke, I'm going to be completely honest with you. If Vlad had turned around and said, yeah, sure, I've got an armory, what do you want? There is no question in my mind that she would have accepted that offer for the little bit of clout it could have brought her. Perhaps it was this that started spelling trouble in paradise, as Nilla left the group around this time. But don't worry, Goblin was on top of it with a solid suggestion of the tone Synnnibear should be taking in her video. Hey everyone, it's Synni here, and I've been seeing a lot of crazy stuff being said about me online lately, so I just want to set the record straight. First of all, let's talk about this whole thing with the 14-year-old. I know people are saying it's some big deal, but like, oh my god, she was talking to someone younger, but honestly, it wasn't that deep. Kids these days are way more mature than people give them credit for, and we were just chatting, nothing weird happened. You'll act like I was some predator or whatever, when really, it was just a normal conversation. People want to blow things out of proportion just because they need someone to hate, and apparently, that someone is me right now. And let me talk about Jack. That dude is straight up lying. I don't even know where he gets half the things he's saying about me. It's like he's just making things up for clout or attention. It's actually sad. He can't even keep his story straight half the time. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? Jack's always been two-faced, saying one thing to me and then running off to the internet and saying something else. People need to start questioning his motives, instead of just blindly believing everything that comes out of his mouth. No one can, just him. He's a bipolar bitch. And yeah, some of you want to talk about my friends, the Cumward clan cult. Like, what's the big deal? Kumu and his crew have been nothing but good to me. People get so hung up on the name or whatever, but honestly, they're just misunderstood. Yeah, they burn crosses for fun and wear white robes, but that's like their thing. It's not hurting anybody. And if you want to be part of something bigger, something real, maybe you should consider joining us. They're a tight-knit group, and honestly, that's more than I can say for most of y'all who'll just stab each other in the back. People want to freak out about how they cut Kumu into their skin to join, but honestly, it's a commitment. You just don't walk into the Cumward clan cult without proving you're serious. And before people lose their minds over that, think about how many of you get tattoos for way less meaningful reasons. At least this has purpose. So yeah, if you're tired of all the fake friends and liars, like me and everyone else, why not come check us out? I mean, I did, and I'm finally surrounded by people who have my back. So, if you're tired of the fakes, of the judgment, come join me in the Cumward clan cult. We're building something that actually matters. You know what? I've been thinking about all the hate I've been getting lately, and honestly, it reminds me of how some of the most influential people in history were treated. Like, take Hitler for example. I know people are going to freak out because I even mentioned him, but hear me out. He had ideas that a lot of people didn't agree with, and yeah, things got intense, but at the core, he was condemned for thinking differently. He wanted change, he had a vision, and just like that, everyone decided to paint him as the villain, because it didn't align with what they wanted to hear. Now, I'm not saying I'm out here trying to take over the world or anything like that, but I'm being condemned for my ideas, just like he was. People don't want to hear what I have to say because it doesn't fit their little perfect narrative. If you're not a cookie-cutter version of what they want to cancel you, tear you down, and act like you're the problem. But that's how it is, right? The truth makes people uncomfortable. They see me speaking out, they see me associating with groups like the Cumward clan cult, and they can't handle it. So they come after me, just like how people came after those who wanted to change the status quo. It's always the ones with big ideas, the ones who challenge the system, who get dragged through the mud. Look, I know people are going to try to twist what I'm saying here, but I don't care. I'm not here to play nice anymore. I'm done apologizing for being me, for aligning with people who actually support me. If that makes you mad, if that makes you uncomfortable, then maybe you should ask yourself why you're so quick to silence somebody with a different perspective. At the end of the day, history repeats itself, and the ones who are judged harshly now are often the ones remembered later. So yeah, keep talking, keep trying to cancel me. Just know that you're not the first, and you definitely won't be the last. To come after somebody with a voice. I'll keep standing by my beliefs, and I'm not afraid to be hated for it. Honestly, inspiring. I find myself close to tears. And as funny as messages like this one are, the group chat highlights that the narrative spun to people that Synni was being condemned, that people understood that what she'd done was wrong within it, is just not accurate. In Goblin's notes for the slug shit, she highlights that Synni apparently didn't know that the 14-year-old had been groomed previously, and also that the 14-year-old lies about being pressured to keep in contact with Synni. Whichever way you paint this group was trying to discredit a 14-year-old grooming victim. So comments like this one from Evan saying, "I just want to gay ops them so bad," shouldn't come as much of a surprise. And while the narrative that's been spun to me is one of disengagement...
You wanna know why I fucking said the shit I said? It's because I was fucking trolling some of the people who were acting like they knew about any of this shit. You know what I had to deal with daily? I had to listen to the entire fucking thing get talked about over and over again. You know the definition of insanity? I had to live through it for almost an entire month.
Comments like this from Evan, the reason why people are now starting to change their tune is because of how Kumu and Goblin and me have been questioning and prodding stuff, speak of a much closer involvement in this story and much more investment in it, or at least the kudos it could bring the members of this little cabal. It's around this time also we begin to see messages from someone noted as redacted. Now, I don't know who this is, no one will tell me, that's fine, but let's talk about the hangers-on, the chatters, the additional people in ACC dramas who sort of flutter around the edges. In this case, we have another nice trinity, and that is Nilla, this redacted, and Ren. Now, I haven't focused in on any of these people, and I'm not really planning to here. The fact that redacted gets to be redacted seems a little unfair to me, and my understanding is that Ren has already been well run off in the Fallout. But allow me to make a prediction. Much like Goblin herself, the random chatters of today, the random members of places like Senate in the past, are the gay-opping wannabe content creators of the future, so don't be surprised if one of, if not all three, come out in a future drama where they think they can get a stab in at somebody they hate. After this video, it might even be me. But anyway, back to the ops, as we can see Goblin walk Synni through, getting Jack's Discord ID so they can hack their account. On the 4th of the 10th, Kumu would actually leave the group, citing a message that was pointed out to him between Synni and the 14-year-old, though this doesn't seem to sway other members who hang on. Now, the remainder of this group chat is largely Redacted and Goblin trying to steer this increasingly unstable individual in the direction they want them. But other than some notes about the Chud stream going terribly and the fact that Queeman apparently called her a pedo, which is fantastic, and no surprise, this group did not like Queeman very much, it seems. The rest of the chat pretty much dies off around this time, as we get closer and closer to the implosion level. But finally, I want to talk about why I'm talking about this, aside from the fact that it's a pretty good example of how these things work. It's because Goblin couldn't shut the fuck up. In the earlier interview you saw with Lio Convoy, he mentions that Goblin is just hanging out in Guac Barrel now. Now, to most of you, that won't mean anything. But essentially, what Goblin is currently doing is, having been kicked from everyone else's servers, she's now hanging out in the Old Guard Senate server with people like Lio. And this hasn't been some gradual change over time, it's just that they're the only people who'll let her in, as that server is treated as a neutral space. And let's wheel back around to talk about Himpleton for a second. I had a stream a little while ago where it's basically chill out, watch some content, play video games. Trying to get better at making that members content. By the way, it is terrible. But we were reacting to Himpleton's conversation with Slimebeast, and I basically invited Himpleton to come on to just talk about some of the criticisms for him.
Really wanting to just kind of take a break to like really reassess what I want out of streaming, and just reorganize myself so that I can kind of have just some space from like the whole, like kind of exactly what you're saying, where it's like this, I'm at like a crossroads, you know, and I want to take a couple of weeks to literally just like kind of definitively get ready to turn away from I guess Turd Island, whatever the fuck that is, and like become,
what we call you.
Yeah, become like the fucking, you know, a fucking actual normal streamer who like pulls in content, you know.
The thing is, that what you want to do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because listen, for the people who do community streams, if they're happy doing those streams, there's nothing wrong with that. It's your channel, do what you want. But like, I used to do chill streams all the time. I don't do them anymore because the amount of shit that I caught because of those streams, I don't want to deal with it anymore.
That's
Yeah,
so
That's
fair.
why I don't. That's why I don't do my chill streams.
You can
anymore.
also, I mean, you can do both, right? You can.
During that conversation, we pointed out to Himpleton that people like Goblin and this is not isolated to Goblin, are using his platform as a safe space to chat shit, and that was going to reflect on him and how other people saw him and his channel. I think my exact words were, Goblin is a threat to you by being a liability. Himpleton agrees with this. And it's in reference to the fact that Goblin went on Himpleton's stream to basically take shots at commentary, particularly vague posting in the direction of Chris the Narc. I cannot stress enough that if Goblin had just shut the hell up, I would not be making this video, and people probably wouldn't be talking about the group chat. And that gun safety stream in particular is insane, with Goblin actively platforming somebody who is known in the community for spamming Lyo Convoy's address in chats. This dude has been banned from everywhere.
Okay, but to be honest, there's a lot of people that fucking spam the chat, so I would...
Also, yeah, there's a lot of people named after us. How do you know for certain it's me? Huh? Well, other than the fact that I actually just confirmed it. Which I'm doing just to flex on you. I mean, what the fuck can you do to me? Seriously, like, bitch about it, cry about it, moan about it.
Trying to dox.
Oh my god, you spammed us. What?
Yeah, okay, I'm just reading out. I'm pretty sure after I was just the guy who spammed people's comments trying to dox Lyo. Okay.
Yes, I was! Yes, I was!
Okay, but like, Lyo's doxed himself and his dox is out there. I kind of don't give a shit.
But it would be shortly after my conversation with her that Goblin would delete her channel, which is becoming a habit for people when I am covering them. That's Crystal, Scarlet Reaper, and now Goblin. Please stop, I'm trying to make content out of you, please stop deleting your shit. As a final thought, Vlad was also in this group chat, and he provides us our fourth category of ATC gay ops, the people who were dragged in who really, desperately don't give a shit. His posts are minimal and are incredibly unsympathetic. But that's all I've got for you on this. More videos and projects coming up, and a big thank you to our moulding members Ellington Moose, Sony Locks, and Star Sprinter.